Part 1: The Smoke That Never Lifts. The first scream barely made it through the glass. Harper Reed stood at the kitchen window, holding a mug that had long gone cold, staring into the half-built cul-de-sac at the edge of Blackwater estate. The streetlights flickered in the dry wind, halos of sodium light trembling above the red dust. Beyond the fence, the new houses looked hollow and waiting, as if they'd been built for ghosts instead of families. Then something slammed open across the street. A door, hard enough that she felt the vibration through her own floorboards. Two figures burst from the dark entryway of Lot 19. They stumbled down the porch steps, barefoot, blood on their faces like streaks of black paint under the weak light. "Jesus," Mason muttered, stepping up beside her. "That's Jasper and Willow, right?" Harper nodded. The couple had moved in a month earlier, all smiles and drone footage and Instagram tags. The kind of people who made moving to the outback look like a lifestyle ad. Now, Willow was running like her legs didn't belong to her, tripping on gravel. Jasper caught her arm, trying to steady her, shouting something Harper couldn't hear. Then the door behind them creaked wider, slow, deliberate. Something moved in that darkness. It wasn't the light that made Harper's stomach tighten. It was the absence of it, the way the doorway seemed deeper than the walls around it, as if it led somewhere far below the house. Willow screamed. The sound didn't rise, it sank, as if dragged downward into the soil. Mason grabbed his phone, stumbling for the door. By the time they reached the porch, the street was empty. The wind carried the smell of dust and iron. Only the door of Lot 19 was still open, swaying in rhythm with the humming power lines above. The police came at dawn. Sheriff Nagel's convoy cut through the estate like a slow-moving funeral. For trucks, 2 fire engines, and a crime scene trailer that looked older than the town itself. Harper and Mason watched from their lawn as men in masks moved through the ruins. The air smelled of burnt insulation and something sweeter, rotted meat under varnish. "They are saying the wiring caught," one of the paramedics muttered. "But there's no damn way wiring burns that cold." Harper didn't ask. She'd seen the inside before they sealed it off. The walls were black with ash except for a single patch above the mantel, a perfect 5-point scorch mark, deep enough to have eaten into the studs. And under the floorboards, where the wood had buckled and cracked, something had clawed from below. Mason took photos from behind the tape, his hands shaking. "Looks like fingernails," he whispered. "Or, hell, like something trying to dig out, not in." That night, the wind returned. It came in from the west, carrying the smell of rain that would never come. Harper lay awake listening to the hum of the wires and the faint creak of the empty lot. Somewhere in the dark, metal scraped against stone, slow, deliberate, like a shovel dragging through bone. Sienna Holt came by the next morning with whiskey and stories. She was 30, freckled, and perpetually half-drunk, the kind of neighbor who always had the right gossip at the wrong time. She lived 4 houses down and had been here since the first stage of construction. "They should have never built on this land," she said, pouring a drink without asking. "Old Blackwater station was right under us. Drover country." Mason frowned. "Drover?" Sienna smiled without humor. "Cattle driver. Back in the 1800s, this whole valley was ranching land. The owner, name lost to time, used to drive stock down to Broken Hill. But there were disappearances. Women. Kids. They said he hung them in the wells to keep the flies off the meat." "Urban legend," Harper said. "Maybe," Sienna replied. "Except when they tore down the last of the barns, they found bones. Small ones. Nails still in them. The wind hissed through the eaves. Locals called him the drover," she went on. "Said when the drought came, he went mad. Burned the station with his family still inside. When they found him, he'd carved stars into their chests and fed them to the fire." Harper tried to laugh it off, but her throat felt dry. "So, what is still out there? A ghost cowboy?" Sienna leaned closer, whispering, "He only comes when new blood builds over old soil. When people forget whose land it was. And those 2 who ran last night? They didn't forget fast enough. She took another drink. The drover doesn't kill for fun. He collects. That night, Harper couldn't sleep. She stood by the window again, looking across the cul-de-sac. The police tape fluttered like veins in the wind. The house beyond it was a burnt-out husk, the windows black, the door gone. Yet sometimes, when the wind stopped, she swore she saw a faint orange glow coming from deep within the charred walls, like embers still breathing. At 3 a.m., Mason whispered, "You hear that?" It was faint at first, a low, rhythmic creak, like a leather strap tightening. Then came the hum. Not a machine hum, not power lines, but something older, throbbing through the ground, through the air, through her teeth. And underneath it, a whisper. One word. Mine. The following day, she found Sienna sitting on her porch, hands shaking around an unlit cigarette. They took Jasper and Willow's car out of the quarry, Sienna said. Both doors open. No bodies. Harper said nothing. Sienna looked up, eyes glassy. You know what the old folks said about the drover. He marks what's his. Once you've seen him, he'll brand you before the week's out. The cigarette broke in her fingers. Harper turned back toward her own house. In the dust near the mailbox, half buried by wind, was a flattened horseshoe, blackened with rust, still warm to the touch. Part 2. The smell beneath the soil. By the third night, the hum never stopped. It had settled into the ground, a vibration that lived in the plumbing, the walls, the air between breaths. Harper felt it most when she stood still. It wasn't a sound, not exactly, but a low, endless pressure, as if the earth itself was whispering through her bones. Sienna Holt knocked on their door just after midnight. She looked pale and feverish, wrapped in a denim jacket 2 sizes too big, a flashlight shaking in her hand. I'm going over there, she said. Harper stared at her. Sienna, no. The cops. They're gone. Packed up yesterday. Sienna's voice was flat. They didn't even finish digging. Said it's not safe, that the soil's shifting. But I've seen it, something's moving down there. Mason appeared in the hallway behind Harper, barefoot, eyes heavy. You mean animals? Sienna shook her head. Not unless kangaroos learned how to hum. They followed her halfway across the street before Harper stopped. The burned house loomed like a carcass, its roof half collapsed, the porch beams black and bent. The air smelled wrong, like rain on ash and something sour beneath it, wet metal and meat. Sienna stepped under the caution tape, her flashlight sweeping over the wreckage. The beam caught a half-melted picture frame still clinging to the wall, 2 smiling faces, Jasper and Willow, frozen forever in golden hour light. The floor groaned. Careful, Mason said quietly. I know, Sienna muttered. There's a crawl space under the living room. That's where they said the noise started. She crouched near the fireplace, brushing soot away. Beneath the blackened wood, a square of concrete had cracked clean through, as if something underneath had tried to breathe. Then the hum rose, louder now, vibrating through their feet. Sienna's flashlight flickered. What the hell is that? Harper whispered. The air thickened, hot and metallic. A faint orange light pulsed through the cracks in the floor, like embers buried deep. Sienna's voice trembled. It's coming up. Something struck the wall, a hard, wet thud. Then another. A steady rhythm, like boots dragging through mud. The temperature dropped so fast that Harper could see her breath. The light in Sienna's hand strobed once, twice, then caught on a shape emerging from the far corner of the house. A man. Or what used to be one. He wore the ragged ghost of a stockman's coat, the leather stiff and cracked, the edges black with soot. His hat was pulled low, hiding everything but the lower half of his face, where his mouth should have been. Rows of broken teeth jutted outward like a shark's grin. His skin was the color of dirt. His eyes glowed dull red, like coals smoldering beneath a long-dead fire. Sienna stepped backward, shaking her head. No, no, you're not real. The figure tilted its head, and in a voice like sand grinding in a furnace, it whispered. This land is mine. Then the floor split open. Ash and splinters shot upward as Sienna screamed, falling into the dark. Mason lunged forward, catching her sleeve, but her hand slipped free, leaving a strip of skin behind like wet paper. She vanished into the light below, her screams muffled by the roar that followed. The drover straightened, smoke pouring from the seams of his coat. His boots left no sound, only the faint hiss of cooling metal. Harper grabbed Mason's arm. "Run!" They tore through the yard, stumbling over gravel. Behind them, the house was glowing from within, a furnace alive again. The hum had become a chorus, low and animal. The clouds above twisted in unnatural spirals, lightning flashing green against the horizon. They reached their porch just as Mason doubled over, gasping. "My hand, Christ!" He held it up. The skin across his palm had darkened to the color of iron, the veins beneath glowing faintly red. The pattern was unmistakable, a star, 5 points seared into flesh, pulsing with heat. Harper grabbed a towel from the sink, pressing it against his hand, but steam hissed through the fabric. "We need a hospital." Mason shook his head violently. "We can't leave. He's outside." She looked through the window. The street was empty, bathed in the amber light of the dying lamps. Yet the air shimmered, faint distortions, like heat waves rising from asphalt. Somewhere far off, a horse screamed. At 3 a.m., the power went out. The hum returned, softer now, like something breathing through the floorboards. Harper sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the walls, feeling the vibration through the mattress springs. Mason slept fitfully beside her, his burned hand twitching in rhythm with the pulse of the house. In the reflection of the window, Harper saw movement, a figure standing in the yard, shoulders hunched, smoke rising from its hat. The drover. He didn't move. Didn't need to. He simply was. The kind of stillness that meant hunger, not peace. Harper whispered, "Why us?" And as if answering, the phone on the nightstand lit up. Ping. New order confirmed, Blackwater estate. Deliver now. Morning brought no relief. The power returned, but the lights hummed out of sync, flickering in slow, nauseating intervals. The air smelled faintly of burnt sugar and copper. Mason wouldn't eat. He sat at the table, staring at his hand, the skin cracked and blackened, the star now carved deep enough to bleed. "He's marking me," he said quietly. "Same way he did them." Harper forced a smile she didn't feel. "Then we'll burn it off." But when she pressed the iron to his palm, the metal hissed, and the house shook. The mark only burned brighter. That afternoon, they found Sienna. Or what was left of her. The sheriff's deputy called from the site, voice shaking, "We thought it was a torp." It was her. Skin flayed and nailed to the wall under the floorboards. No body. Just skin. Harper dropped the phone. Mason was already staring toward Lot 19. The smoke was rising again. That night, she dreamed of hooves striking stone, slow, steady, endless. A well burning at the center of a paddock. A voice whispering through her teeth. All of it. Part 3, The Fire in the Well. By dawn, the smoke had turned black. Harper watched it coil from the pit where Lot 19 used to stand, twisting up into the pale sky like a living thing. The air reeked of sulfur and fat, and the sound beneath it, that steady, low hum, was now louder than the wind. Mason stood barefoot in the yard, eyes glassy, his burned hand twitching like it had a will of its own. He hadn't spoken since the night before. When she tried to pull him back inside, he whispered only one word. "Listen." The ground trembled under their feet. The hum deepened, turning into a rhythm, hooves striking stone, faint and measured, echoing from below. Then the street cracked. Hairline fractures spidered through the pavement, glowing faintly orange. A wave of heat rolled upward, so dry it burned Harper's lungs. And somewhere down there, something laughed. By evening, the police were gone. Their radios failed, their tires melted on the asphalt, and their lights flickered dead. Harper and Mason stayed, partly from fear, partly because something in the air refused to let them leave. Every time she tried to drive away, the GPS looped them back to the estate. Every road ended where the houses began. Lot 19 had collapsed inward. What was once a basement was now a crater, a well without water, its edges ringed by blackened roots and splintered bone. The wind that rose from it was hot and slow, carrying the faint smell of tallow and smoke. Mason whispered, "He's under there." The hum agreed. They reached the rim just after sunset. The world was fading into a sickly orange glow, the clouds reflecting the light from below. Harper tied a rope around her waist, Mason's belt, a length of curtain cord, anything she could find. "You're not going down there," he said weakly. "I have to." Her voice barely carried over the hum. The phone in her pocket buzzed again. New order, confirmed delivery. Destination, Blackwater Station, 1872. The air around them thickened. The well glowed brighter. "I think he's calling both of us," she said. Then the ground gave way. They fell only a few meters before landing hard on stone, slick and warm. The air was alive with steam and whispers, every sound a layer of the same word, mine, mine, mine. The space around them was enormous, not a basement, but a tunnel system, carved out of black rock and lined with the remnants of fence posts, horseshoes, and bones. Iron branding stars marked every wall, glowing faintly red. At the center of it all, a pit of flame burned without smoke. Shapes writhed within, hands, faces, torsos, all half-formed and sinking. Harper dragged herself up, coughing, and froze. Across the pit, standing on the stone lip, was the drover. His body towered and swayed, hat brim shadowing the ruined grin. His coat dragged behind him like a trail of ash. Around his neck hung dozens of broken spurs, clinking faintly in the furnace wind. "You build over my paddock," he said, his voice the grind of hot iron. "You pave over my dead." Mason tried to stand, but his branded hand flared red-hot, locking his body in place. The drover raised one arm, the whip coiled at his side unfurled like a serpent of smoke and fire. "This land is mine." He swung. The lash cracked through the air, carving a burning line across Mason's chest. Harper screamed, grabbing a shard of rebar, rushing forward. The drover turned toward her, and his face came clear in the firelight. It wasn't a face anymore. The skin had fused to bone, teeth protruding outward like jagged coral. His eyes were pits of molten coal. When he spoke again, the heat of it blistered the air. "I took the herds, the men, the women. Now I take you." The ground erupted. From the cracks in the stone, hands clawed their way up, dozens, hundreds, some skeletal, some still dripping with tar. The ghosts of the buried, rising in silence. But from behind the drover came another sound, the high, keening cry of a woman. The fire turned blue. And she stepped through it. Eliza Blackwood, her dress burned away to ribbons, her skin a patchwork of ash and light. Around her, 9 children crawled from the earth, eyes empty but glowing. "You burned us," she said softly, voice echoing like wind through hollow wood. "Now burn alone." The drover staggered, his coal eyes flickering. "You can't have it." Eliza smiled, teeth black as soot. "It's already ours." She gestured, and the children leapt. They swarmed over the drover, their tiny hands burning like brands. He howled, the sound splitting the walls, as their touch melted through his coat, his skin, his very shape. The whip turned to smoke in his grip. Harper seized her chance. She drove the rebar through his eye, once, hard. Light burst from the wound, not red, but pure white. The drover fell backward into the pit. The fire roared, consuming him whole. The tunnel collapsed. Harper dragged Mason toward the surface as the walls cracked and the flames surged upward, reaching for the open sky. The rope burned through her palms. The hum became a scream. They burst into the night just as the crater erupted. A column of fire shot into the air, painting the clouds green and gold. The shockwave flattened the houses nearest the well. Harper threw herself over Mason, covering his head. When the roar faded, all that remained was the soft crackle of burning wood and the faint whisper of wind through ash. Then came the sound, quiet at first, almost human. Laughter. Down in the firelight, Liza and the children stood, their forms dissolving in the heat. They smiled up at her, faces peaceful, bodies finally turning to smoke. As they faded, Harper could see something writhing beneath the ground, pale, segmented, like worms retreating into soil. Morning broke yellow and strange. The estate was